What's going on, everyone? I'm Chris Baker.
And I'm Ty Backer.
Welcome to episode 192 of Behind the ToolBelt with TC Backer Construction.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Behind the Tool Belt is sponsored by Lead Scout. Find out more at leadscoutapp.com.
I just think our salespeople are being a little bit of, well, lead babies.
Yeah, we don't say lead babies. It's okay for people to specialize in selling instead of canvassing and lead gen for themselves. We call them roofing sales professionals.
Surprisingly, sales are way up as we've built heavier duty lead gen systems and let our salespeople be roofing sales professionals.
Better leads. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Hey, TC Backer family, what is going on? Behind the ToolBelt family, I should say.
Yeah. Behind the Tool Belt.
Behind the ToolBelt family.
What a great week.
Dude, what a great week.
Yeah.
It's been actually a couple really, really good weeks. There's been a lot of progress in things outside of just Behind the ToolBelt, but with Behind the ToolBelt, we've had some really good guests. We've had some really good episodes. Just really, really, really good info and nuggets and just wholesome conversations and good stuff. Ty, you've gotten to do a lot of really cool stuff, man. And we got another great guest today, man. You want to introduce the man, Ty?
Yes. R.D Saunders. I met him 2 years ago at a Revolt couples retreat in Punta Cana, is where I first met R.D. and he kind of busted my balls a little bit. We did a couples exercise and we got each other, had to leave the room, and the men were asked, a series of questions that we would have to answer correctly based upon what we think our wives how they would answer those questions. And each, Jana and myself, were asked the question, I think it was our anniversary, like when's our wedding anniversary or something like that. And both of us must have mentioned or commented, it's complicated. And what the irony of it is we both answered it basically the same way, but everyone was kind of puzzled and confused because, we thought, how or why is it complicated?
Right.
Because everyone's under the impression, because we've been together forever.
Right.
And they thought, we were married. So, of course, after the exercise and we, the session broke up, everyone's asking us, like, what do you mean it's complicated? Yeah. But it was hilarious, too.
Right.
At the same time. And it was like, we're not married. So, like, we don't have an anniversary. And we don't know exactly the date that was like our first date.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the process that we took is that we've known each other for 30 years and we decided to take things slow. So like there was a good 12 months before we, engaged in each other. And we kind of tried to actually do it right for once. Both of us have horrible pickers. in picking, mates.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided, let's try to do this right. Like, I wasn't in a hurry. I just got out of a bad relationship. She just got out of a bad relationship. We knew who each other were, and we had been friends. I've known her parents.
Yeah.
And she knows my parents and my brother-in-law and my sister and stuff. And that's how I've known her for so long. And the timing was never right for each other to hook
Right.
up. And so then she had said something to her parents, like, hey, I'm thinking about, dating Ty. And we both were terrified because her dad knows me.
Yeah. Like knows you.
Uh-huh. And both her and her dad, her mom and her dad were like, oh my God, we love Ty.
Yeah.
And that just gave us the green light where we kind of kept it under wraps
Right.
for that 12 months because we didn't know. Is this going to work? Isn't it going to work?
Right. Right.
And, so it wasn't like we didn't spend the night over at each other's house. We would get together for coffee, like adult shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And finally she came to visit me. I was on a job. I was doing a job. I was tearing a roof off down in Pocomoke, Maryland. Big monster job. And this was before GPS, believe it or not.
The old MapQuest days.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. And Garmin just came out with GPS. And,
Okay.
and I actually bought her. Somehow I got her a Garmin to find out where, to find me. Well, it didn't work or something. We couldn't figure out how to use it. But she found me.
Right.
And we spent the night and nothing happened. We totally legit.
Right.
Nothing happened. And, I knew that at that moment that I had loved her, like I definitely love this chick and want to be with this girl for the rest of my life. Anyhow, I could talk about that.
That's good stuff.
That
man.
romantic. Anyhow, RD pulled me off to the side and he's like, listen, if you guys want to get married, I can do that. I have the capabilities of doing that. And of course, Hunter, this is the whole crazy story. So Hunter has known this whole time. And for a year, he's been riding me. Every now and then I would get a message from him. So did you ask her?
Yeah.
And it got to the point where it was getting me mad.
Right.
I was angry. And I would comment back snarty stuff back and forth. So now at this point in time, Dylan knows, Bob Hole knows. So Jana would be.
Well, they eating you up down there. Then.
Yeah. Behind Jana's back. To the point Hunter even went and bought a ring and was like this behind her back. And I was so sick and was contemplating like, dude, have I wasted this chick's life for the past 12, 13, 14 years?
Right.
What am I going to do here? I mean,
Right.
Literally it had me all up my head to the point where I was sick. Like, is this the right thing? Isn't it the right thing? Anyhow, long story short, me, I talk about legacy, leadership, and all of these things. Like, what are we going to leave behind?
Yeah.
What impression are we going to leave behind? And what value are we going to leave behind? And there's one huge thing that has been going over my head for years.
Mm-hmm.
That was my family is a part of my legacy. Right. And if I would die tomorrow, unfortunately, people would forget about who Jana was.
Right.
6 months later. Right. Because she's not carrying on the Backer legacy.
Right.
Her last name would not match mine.
Right.
And it was like, oh my God, like I almost felt like a fraud when I had that epiphany, that moment of clarity. I'm like, dude, it makes total sense why we need to do this. And RD, the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
But what had really pushed me over the edge is when Facebook Live notification popped up on my phone. And here's another couple that was on the retreat with us, and that popped up on our phone, and she saw it. We were up at the front desk. My key wouldn't work to get in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw it. And I saw the look on her face of sadness.
Yeah.
And so we did what we had to do. And we had these stupid bracelets on that would let you in your room.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't get it right. And we're sitting there and the frustration, level is raising. And on top of which I'm watching someone else get married right now. And the most romantic scenery, place. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And so we're heading back to the room, finally got the key situated. And I said to Janet, do you want to get married?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, I said, let's go down there. And I knew, and she's like, no, I want to go back to the room. And I could tell she was sick, like physically, mentally sick. And I was like, let's go get married. And she was like, no. And I knew why she said no. She said no because she thought that I didn't really want to.
That you were just doing it to make her happy.
Yeah,
Right.
but that God's honest truth. It was all of these things had transpired to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these God shots were all over the place. My best friends in the world. I'm with my best friends, my level up people,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? That helped me push me up. And they're all encouraging it. And it's like, you know, I've committed to so many things in my life. Why am I so terrified of this
Right.
one commitment that's
Right.
only going to make me a better person?
Right.
You know what I mean?
The one like consistent thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
Right.
been consistent the whole time. Yeah.
I mean, that's perfect. You just, yes, consistency, bro.
Yeah.
And she has been steady Eddie and my rock and my ride or die and all of these things, good, the bad, and the uglies. And so I was like, no, we're going down here. And when she committed, dude, I mean, we hurdled beach chairs, bushes, palm trees, like because we kind of had an idea where they were. And we finally got down there. And they just finished. RD just finished. They kissed. You may now kiss the bride.
Yeah.
And my brother Brandon Allen, I went over to him and he's Facebook Live,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, hey man, we're gonna get married. And he was like on Facebook Live. You are not gonna believe this. Ty Backer is getting married. It's giving me goosebumps right now. But I believe honestly, and you know, I'm not a Bible bumper and all that stuff, or try to push it down anybody's throat.
Right.
We try to attraction rather than promotion. And I believe God works in mysterious ways and puts people in your life. And RD, I wholeheartedly, every fiber of my being, as the goosebumps and the hair stand up on my arms right now. I believe God, my higher power, who I choose to call God today, has been placed in my life.
Yeah.
For many reasons, but that was the most important at that time.
Yeah.
So that's the whole scoop, man.
Yeah,
And
it's an awesome story,
That's
man.
the tea.
It's an awesome story. I remember, I think it was a day or two after you guys did that. You guys FaceTimed me that morning. I think it was a Saturday morning.
Mhm.
And just like the excitement and everything that was on you guys' face and the conversation and everything, it was really cool. I'll definitely never forget it. Super happy for you guys, man. And like
So-
that was a really good.
You know how we
Good
do
point.
things on this and on Facebook. So I'm going to put something out there that, you know, because we say crazy stuff on here and
Mhm.
we accomplish crazy things on the show. So what I'm going to say is that we haven't gotten married in the States yet, but we would like RD to marry us in the States.
Ooh.
And we just, I don't know if Jana's listening or not, maybe not. She's watching Sky, but whatever date that might be, and if she throws a date up there, I guess that's going to be the date, because that's kind of how we roll. It's going to be a schmacker. Like I'm talking,
RD's coming to Dover.
I don't care where we're all going, but everybody and their brother is going to be there.
She is definitely watching. She just popped in. It says Janet is watching.
So she probably missed that part,
Yeah.
which is fine with me for now.
She can catch it on the replay.
Yeah,
The internet is forever, Ty.
but she didn't want a big one. But I'm thinking, like, I've never done this before,
Mhm.
and this is the one and doneer. So it's going to be huge, like
Yeah.
off the hook, huge. I want to fly people in from all over the world, if they're my friends, my family,
Yeah.
my relatives, to come to the schmacker.
Yeah.
It's going to be a schmacker.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really
Yes. So anyhow, RD, my man, thank you for listening to that long-winded story. Why don't you give us like who you are and what makes you so special to me and your journey to the specialness where you are today?
Well, I was just thinking back to the retreat when you and Jana got married. Of course, it was pretty odd anyway. I mean, here we are in a place with free alcohol, and people say they want to get married, and I'm thinking it's like, you know, a Vegas kind of thing, you know, where people get a little hammered and say, let's get hitched. And that's not how I roll. You know, I really take it seriously. So I had to grill the first couple just to make sure. And man, they convinced me. And then we're walking away from where the ceremony is being held, going back to celebrate and so on. And everyone yells, stop. And that's when we found out you and Jana were going to get married. And of course, I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to have to grill this couple too, just to make sure this isn't, you know, again, free alcohol, let's get married.
Mhm.
And sure enough, man, it didn't take long for me to figure out you guys truly were in love with each other and that this was a God thing. It wasn't like, you know, emotion or or something else. It was real. And I only thought about that all the more when I got to see you a year later at the same retreat and saw how you guys were so close and so much in love. So proud of you, buddy. Well done.
Thank you.
And Jana, if you're listening, super proud of you too, sweetheart. So R.D. Saunders is my name. People forget it half the time, call me JD, JR. I had one guy calling me Archie. And I don't even think people are using that name much anymore. But anyway, it's RD, stands for Ryan Dean. Wasn't my idea. Very young then when it happened. I tell people to remember it by either using research and development or Chef Boy RD. And it seems like more people are familiar with ravioli in the can than they are with RD. So, I'm so fortunate. Grew up super blue collar, super redneck, super messed up, frankly, in the hometown of Lancaster, Ohio, where I grew up. My wife, probably a little bit similar, but somewhat different. But her father had a roofing company, and I went to work for Brownco Roofing back in 1990 for a whole $5 an hour, and I was probably overpaid. And primarily commercial roofs, and hadn't swung a hammer hardly in my life. It's a good thing I was starting with short nails and wide heads, rather than 16s or something. But had a great experience. Learned to work in unbearable heat, in mess and filth, and everything else involved with asphalt roofing. And but it just taught me so much. It taught me about hard work. It taught me about pushing through what you think you can do. It taught me also about working with other folks that are blue collar. And I've spent most of my life in professional circles since then. But that experience was great for me. I actually was pastoring a church at the same time. And it was a pretty challenging gig to be in both of those worlds, but we made it work. And spent 22 years as a pastor. But I really, about late 08, 09, I began to really feel like I wanted to do something other than anything that involved having an REV in front of my name. Not that that's something bad. It's obviously not. And began to feel a real concern for the international community and what we're doing to help those guys. And so an opportunity came up to leave pastoral work, went to work for a company, did a bunch of their leadership training. I'd been a student of John Maxwell's, the great leadership author who I now work for many, many years, and had become, John made a statement. I think it's worth repeating to your audience, Ty. John made a statement that if you will take a subject and spend an hour a day on that subject, whatever subject it might be, in 5 years, you'll be an expert on that subject. And I began to consume leadership and personal growth and content that developed people in whatever endeavor they were in, not necessarily faith-based endeavors or Christianity or spiritual things, but a focus on anything that makes you better at who you are and what you do. And personal growth, John is certainly the man on that subject, as good as anybody that's ever lived. In fact, I don't know that there's ever been anyone that's ever lived like John. But John's challenge to me to grow myself every day, what was the first step into my life leveling up to something. What I tell people all the time, when you start growing, it's like one day, several years in, you walk into your house and there's a doorway that you never saw. And you open that door and there's a staircase to a whole other floor you never knew was there. And that floor has the coolest stuff. It's got the huge TV and the surround sound and the massaging chair and the hot, it's just the greatest place. And this is what happens when you start growing. Before you know it, you walk into something and all of a sudden, everything in your life is bigger and better because you grew. John says it all the time. I believe it to this day. The only hope that tomorrow will be a better day is that I'm growing today. So that became a passion of mine. And I've spent most of my life since then trying to help other people figure that out too, whether it's a faith-based conundrum for them or any element of what they do. How can they get better? And I'm passionate about helping people find that new gear to go to a new level.
Yeah, I love that.
I like that.
Yeah. So that 1 hour, I like how you said that, how John said, And I've heard something similar, like that along the way. What would you recommend to somebody that's trying to develop their leadership skills? Like, what could they do, for an hour a day, or even if they had 30 minutes a day, and let's say it took them 10 years,
Great question.
right? Because
Well,
obviously it's something that it's continuous.
Mm-hmm.
I want to recommend that they spend an hour a week watching the Behind the ToolBelt podcast. I really believe that would be a great move for personal growth. But personal growth is really a combination of what you're reading, what you're listening to, and who you're spending time with. There are people that you'll be with. And I like to call them balcony people. They're the kind of people that lift you up, that take you higher, that make you better, that make you stronger. They push you, they challenge you, etc. And there's some basement people that, man, all they do is pull you down. And let me tell you something. You have a choice about who you're going to spend time with. You do. You have a choice in that. And if it's funny, some people feel like they've got to spend time with people who bring them down. Like somehow there's some dignity or calling in that. And I'm like, dude, all you're doing is wasting your life on that kind of thing. So I encourage people to spend time doing things around others that are better, bigger, stronger, smarter than them. So something that John said, I've never forgotten. I mean, I hear this kind of thing all the time from John, but he talked about how that when he first got going, he's like, okay, how much further do I have to go? I've done it this now for 2 years. Okay, I've got 3 more years. 3 years in, I got 2 more years. Well, eventually he said to himself, wait a minute, not how much further do I have to go? How far can I go if I don't stop?
Mm-hmm.
If I keep growing, if I keep digging, if I keep learning. And so in John's mind, he spends time every single day. He's written 86 books. He's sold 48 million books. He's spoken 13,000 times. He's done all of these things. And yet at 76, he is still the most passionate learner, grower of himself I know on earth today. So I just would say whatever you can do to get your knowledge and your action at a higher level every day is a good use of your time. Be it spending time with people that challenge you. John does these things called learning lunches where he'll pay someone, $100 or $200 to have lunch with him. And he'll prepare. He won't even eat. He'll prepare for the lunch. And the most famous person that he did that with was Coach John Wooden, the famous basketball coach at UCLA that won 13 titles in a row or something. And he read every book he'd written. He took 6 pages of notes. He sat down with Coach Wooden and he began to ask him questions and he began to fire away. Coach Wooden said, well, John, do you have any questions for me? And John kind of smiled. Yes, Coach. Reaches in, gets his briefcase, opens it up, gets his notebook out, and there, 1, 2. And he laid him out in front of Coach. And Coach goes, oh, my. This is before cell phones. And Coach got up and called his secretary and said, listen, clear my day. John Maxwell has 6 pages of questions. And they go for a bit, end up going back to Coach Wooden's condominium there in Los Angeles. And I mean, John spent the entire day. He said the last thing that John Wooden did before he died, now many years after this thing, was he wrote the foreword to John's book. It was one of John's books about failing, called Failing Forward. And Coach Wooden passed away the next day. And that was how close they had become. And so whatever you can do to be around winners is probably the very best thing that you can do. Whatever you can do to ingest, like food, to partake of things that grow you and challenge you, whether it's podcasts or videos or things that you listen to or books that you read. The more you can internalize that, and then the more you put it into action, you can learn things every day until it becomes a part of what you do. It's probably nothing you've learned. And then, by the way, the greatest way to learn something is to teach it. Yeah. You teach other people this. You teach your team, or find someone to teach, and you're going to learn more about it teaching it maybe than you would have learned learning it.
Yeah, no, I like that. I call it feeding your brain. You know what I mean? It's like when you feed yourself, if you're feeding yourself garbage, right? You're going to develop a belly. You're going to become out of shape, overweight, and all of those things. And the same thing with your mind and your brain. Like if you're feeding your mind and brain, whether it be influence of others or what you're listening to, the type of music you're listening to, or whatever the case, watching TV, like mindless TV. What do you think is going to happen to your mind? Right. But if you're watching, positive things, listening to positive things, reading motivational things or scholastic things, right? That's what you're going to do. You're going to feed your brain that power, or whatever knowledge that you're seeking, right? And that's so cool for you to say that. So having said all of this and talking about, those that you surround yourself with, right, is very important. And we talked about this before. It's like when I was younger, I hung out with the kids on the street corner, right? So that was my influences. That was my impact on me. And I was at a very young age. And of course, these guys were all older. And I wanted to sound like them. I wanted to talk like them. I wanted to dress like them. And it's really no different today. It's just the exact opposite of what I'm going for today. You know what I mean?
Right.
So how would someone go about to like encourage personal growth in those around them? Or do you not even worry about that? Do you not waste your time on that? So there's two questions there. How do you encourage that? So I got three questions. How do you encourage that? Or are you wasting your time? Or when do you draw the line in the sand where you don't see any improvement?
Trying to turn the basement people into the balcony people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So the number one motivational principle that I know is people do what people see. So if they see in you someone who arrives late, then they're going to arrive late. If they see someone in you who stays late, then they're going to tend to stay late. Whatever you are as a leader, if you're a 6 as a leader, you will not have anyone that's above a 5. They will, the best leader you have, because 8s don't follow 6s. 5s follow 6s, 4s follow 6s, 3s. And so if you are growing and you're modeling that growth to your team and they can see that growth in you, they will naturally realize they better get up or get out. They will actually deselect themselves because they'll say, look, I'm not willing to pay that price. And at that point, you can either as a leader look at them and say, you know what? I can live with their level of service. I'm not going to give them any raises. I don't really have anyone better than them for that particular role right now. But trust me, as soon as you find someone, you'll be wanting to move them out, because a leader who's growing is they get, John calls it, they get leadership claustrophobic. They have a situation where they can't stand to be around people and be working with people who aren't growing like they are, who aren't digging and scraping and clawing. And they get this leadership claustrophobia where they're like, oh, I got to get out of this setting. And so a leader that's growing is naturally going to attract growing leaders. And so I think if you're growing, and Ty, you've undoubtedly done this because of your commitment to personal growth. You have modeled it, and you've absolutely probably had teammates who have self-selected to continue the journey. And you have others that will say, I don't think I want to go that far. And they'll either end up where they are, or they'll end up out because they won't pay the price. Now, as far as helping people to do this, in the end, people have to choose it based on why it's valuable. In your case, when they look at your life and they look at you and Jana, and they look at how your business has grown and how TC Backer is such a successful company, and even your other things like, behind the ToolBelt and other things you're doing that are so successful, they're going to be like, now, how did that happen? Because that's the guy that used to hang out on the street corner with the other boys down the street. How did that guy get there? And so your journey and the perks of what you're enjoying will be inspirational to them. I think, you got to talk about this stuff. I've got in my team, we have a weekly thing I do called Monday Motivation, where I teach them some things I'm learning. I challenge them to get back to me with information about how they're doing. And if they don't, I'm like, hey, I didn't hear from you on that lesson. Did it not have any impact on you? Did it not, so when they know I'm going to check on them, people, when you live as a leader with, I expect what I inspect, or I inspect what I expect, then people tend to come through. If they know, he didn't really care that much about it, it's going to slide, they'll slide in that area, So I think a leader that, number one, models it, a leader that talks about it, a leader whose life demonstrates the upside of it, and then lastly, a leader who lets their team know, if you're going to succeed with me and with this company, you got to keep digging, you got to keep growing. And why would you not want to anyway? It's the most rewarding thing. It's energy in your veins. It's wisdom in your mind. It's joy when you learn something. You're like, oh man, I found something. It's like finding $5 in your pants that you didn't know were there. So anyway, I think those are some of those thoughts along. I hope I answered it like you were thinking, Ty.
Yeah, man. No, that
was good.
Perfect. That was so good. It was so good. And, recently we've experienced that. And I had an individual even go as far as, saying that, you've changed. And what had happened is that I have changed. We were leveling up. And unfortunately, I kept coming down to try to be where they were, because that's what I've learned. I got to get down on their level. And why I asked this question was because I've recently experienced what exactly what we're talking about right now. And it was like, I continuously kept trying to pull this person up, you know what I mean? And then maybe I'm doing it wrong. I'm not pouring enough into this person. And I found it was tiring. It was draining. And it was almost like getting to the point where I felt like maybe I had spoiled them to a certain extent. Then there was an expectation of me being there to coddle them and pick them back up and say, it's going to be okay. And, we'll get through this together. And it was like, I guess I didn't allow either. I don't know. It was kind of a weird relationship, and definitely a learning experience for me, where I got to the point where it was like, it was almost like a tough love thing, where it was like, not that I cut them off. But then when they decided to move on, like you were talking about, and we call it either you'll get pushed up or you'll get pushed out. And it's not that we're doing anything negative. Everything is positive. It's just, you're just not into the same journey that we're into right now. And it's about, self-development and learning from our mistakes and trying to be better people because of them. And everything is a coaching and learning moment. Whether it's I'm in the midst of trying to coach and teach, I'm learning at the same time, listening to the input or feedback, or maybe I should have articulated it. The more that I find myself trying to do this and focus on this, I'm getting better at it. And I'm not even remotely close to the individual that I would like to be, but I'm also trying to surround myself around people that I know are willing to grow and level up with us. And then at times when I'm not at my best, they actually lift me up, because I can't be 100% all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I say stupid things and do stupid things, but what stood out to me when they said you've changed, and I was like, you're right, I have changed. Unfortunately, you chose not to travel the same path that we have, and I was losing weight, lifting weights and eating better and doing things that in the evenings that a couple of us here do to keep on the same path that we're on right now. So this is definitely a great topic, a great learning experience, and several times I've failed miserably. So let's talk about, I actually brought my notebook from your last lecture. I dug it out. I knocked the dust off of it. Actually, it's been in my backpack ever since. And I was super excited that was in there. I actually took a bunch of notes at a retreat, the Hunters retreat this weekend. That Dylan, a big shout out to Dylan Mullins and Mark Jumpman. They did a fantastic job at the Revolt retreat this past weekend. They crushed it. I
talked to Hunter last night, and he went on and on about how good they did and how proud he was of them. And interestingly, Dylan was the other couple that got married. Dylan and George, they they were the other couple that got married on the
Yeah.
beach. So it's a great time.
Yes, it was. It was a great that whole experience. And even this weekend was great. And I learned so much. I'm actually trying to become a coach with Hunter's organization. And that was one of the reasons why I went there, to kind of just, watch and see how it's done, actually be intentional, try to be on the other side of that and see how those things were being held and ran and how they were pouring into everybody and Dylan. And it seemed like I was the whipping boy for the weekend, where they would ask me the questions when nobody else would kind of speak up.
Mm-hmm.
And several times I heard, we don't mean to pick on you, Ty, but we know you have experience in this. And it was kind of, because then I didn't want to overstep my bounds and take the light off of those guys. And they did such a great job. And that's the thing about leadership too. It's like right now I need to be the one being educated.
Yeah.
And not steal the spotlight from anyone, because honestly, when I've gone to these, I bring home so much. And John Stauffer, big shout out to him. He went with us this weekend, and John's director of marketing and sales. And the entire weekend, I could see the wheels turning, man. His nose was in his notebook, and he's taking notes and stuff, even though I've been telling him this stuff for the past 3 years. I kind of felt like I'm the parent that's screaming at your child, but when somebody else tells you, they're actually, no, I'm just kidding. But John, you could see the light bulb was going off with John, and because the guys, Mark and Dylan, man, were just crushing it. And then William, and Tyler and Parker and the whole crew, Hunter's whole crew, he has been able to create a team of leaders, like-minded, motivated, pouring into everybody around them. And RD, you said it best the other day, and I love how you said this to me when we spoke. You and I'll probably screw it up, but you said, "However I can serve you best, Ty." And I felt that from you, like it stuck with me since the other day. And it's like, that's what this is all about.
Yes.
Everything. Leadership isn't about how much money I'm going to make when I become a leader. It's not about how cool I'm going to look. It's not about how cool or great am I going to sound. It's none of that. And it goes into, and with me trying to study these types of things, the one thing I've learned most recently, if I can look at this on, not about any of those selfish things, but about what are they going to get out of what I'm saying, right? Like, this is about them. And I chalk it up to my fishing, my passion for fishing, and how much I enjoy teaching and watching other people fish, the excitement on their face. And of course, that's kind of my metaphor too. Like, I don't want to give you a fish and just eat for a day. I want to teach you how to fish. And so you can eat for a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like my journey that I'm on, and hopefully my end goal, I'll have a whole fleet of boats and how to fish that less fortunate, and get them a career on a boat and become a fishing boat captain someday, maybe. But anyhow, this is about them and not me,
right?
And when you can get that straight in your mind and realize that's your why and why you're put on this earth, and my experiences can help another person, right? And not worry about how many ands, it's not, none of this,
right?
None of this is about me. This is about our viewers, our listeners, our teammates, our coworkers, our subcontractors, our distribution, our manufacturing, our the entire industry. And this is, roofing has allowed us to do this. It has been the vehicle for us to be able to touch and impact so many lives, whether it's at IRE, whether it's on our podcast, whether it's on, and what's cool about it is, RD, the people that are under you, and like you said, when you can get to a point to teach it, right? And then once they learn it, then they become the teacher. Right. And then that ripple effect is what's giving me freaking goosebumps.
It's generational impact, man.
But it's in that, like, for so long, it was always about me. When I was younger, it was all, what am I going to get out of this?
Right.
How always worried about what other people thought, and whether it was the shoes that I wore, and how my appearance. and
Mhm.
was so self-absorbed into me.
Right.
You didn't matter unless you got money in your pocket and I can spend it. That's all I cared about.
Mhm.
Right.
And now it's like I'm more concerned about how much money you have in your pocket. And it's not about, I'm kind of using that as an example. I'm more concerned about that, your welfare.
Right.
You know, and that my life has become, my cup, I'll probably say it wrong, has become overfulleth with an abundance of everything that I've ever
Yeah.
needed.
There was a point in time a couple years ago, man, where you started the conversation became, it's not about your dreams anymore. It's about making this big enough that my dreams fit inside your dream. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's like you have to expand that. And there's so many people underneath you, and there's a lot of dreams underneath you, and you're doing everything that you can to do that. So that's that impact and the growth and the, you know, one thing that you have to look forward to, Ty, you know, the arguably the best leader guy out there, Mr. Maxwell, is still learning. So
Mhm.
it's no shame if you're still learning every day. You know what I mean? But as long as you're taking baby steps forward, then
Amen.
it's all good. It's all
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
we had an experience last night that I'll never forget. So Equip is a faith-based entity, and I mean, just if that's not your thing, don't worry. You guys everyone can relax. It's watching this because, you know, we're all just human beings that fail and sin and blow it. And, you know, I kind of look at myself as a beggar, and I just happen to find the bread, but I'm still pretty got challenges, you know. But last night we had an event where we celebrated reaching 1 million people that we've been able to impact in their spiritual life. And Ty, you might recall, I told you guys a little bit about that at the retreat, and it happened last night. And the thing that was so amazing is John is 76. He's an incredible leader. And he said, other than creating the content, I had nothing to do with this. There were 500 facilitators that we had who helped make this happen. They were all on Zoom. It was so cool to have a Zoom with 500 people. And they were from every part of the world that you could imagine. We had our 1 millionth guy who was impacted. And this guy was in the little country of Liberia in Africa. His name is Simon, and he's an architect. And he told his story, and it was incredible. And John, you know, he's emotional anyway, man. He was just a mess. There was one lady from the country of Uganda, and she got up, and through her impact and her growth as a leader, again, John's never seen her in 3 dimensions. Okay. She's only been on the screen. John was so blown away because that lady this past year impacted 90,000 people. 90,000 in 2 years. It's the most unbelievable story any of us have ever heard. How does this happen? A guy keeps growing. He keeps thinking, or she keeps thinking, I want to serve others. They keep growing. They keep serving others. They keep growing. They keep serving others. Things get contagious positively when leaders continue to grow, continue to give themselves up, and continue to serve others. Ty, I'm here to tell you, I'm not a prophet, but my friend, I do believe this dream that you've got to change people's lives through fishing. I love that dream. I think that's a dream that is going to happen. And I'll tell you why. Not because of what's going to happen 20 years from now or 10 years from now, but what I know is happening every single day. And every single day you're going to wake up. And I want to encourage everyone on this. And I will say, as a younger person, when I was younger, it was tougher for me to think like that, because I think there's a natural, emotional, and physiological thing that keeps you grinding towards success. Not that success isn't important when you get older, but it's just not enough when you get older. You make the switch to significance. Bob Buford wrote about it in his great book called Halftime. And he says that at halftime in our adult life, that we call a timeout and we say, okay, I've pursued success, and there's something that just begins to transition where I say, I want to pursue significance. And that is that you want to do something that lives on, something bigger than yourself, something that changes lives. I just don't, the success mode is more about me. The significance mode is more about others. And Ty, that's what you're experiencing. And this is the natural progression for someone who's been growing. You just want to serve and you want to give back and and you're worried, you're thinking, are they getting it? Are they growing? And man, it breaks your heart when you don't see it. But when you see one of your guys who's, like you said, you saw your guy, his face was in the notebook and he was digging, man, you're like, yes, this is so good. You get more fulfillment out of that than you get out of the big check or the big whatever, because you know it's living on beyond you.
That's success in a
Absolutely.
nutshell. You know, that's man, this is such a great podcast, RD. I can't express to you enough how grateful I am for you to come on our podcast and share your experience, strength, and hope with our viewers and our listeners here on our podcast. And thank you for the influence and support. But you're right, the significance, right? The the success, and we gotta we need help to do that, like you were talking about with John. And I've said many times, like, it's not me. I just happened to show up today. Right. And everybody else has put in the hard work. You know what I mean? And everyone on our team has put in the hard work. And I've been pouring into myself for so long, and I've been traveling so much. I think I'm kind of at that point now where it's like, all of this knowledge that I've gained over the past several years is kind of useless at this point in time until I share it. Right. Because if I die tomorrow, what good is it to anyone? It was kind of a waste of time for me to read all these books and listen to all these podcasts and attend all these retreats and surround myself around these people that are 9 hours, five states away. If I'm not bringing it back, to our team, so then they can spread, that knowledge, that wisdom and inspiration. And like you said, that positiveness, right? Positive energy is so attractive, right? And that's when things are learned and taught, in those atmospheres and stuff like that. And believe me, I'm not perfect by no means. I have watched myself radiate negative energy. I've watched myself radiate positive energy, and I've watched myself in between, where they don't know what to expect at this moment because I'm kind of sort of melancholy, right? But I see that and I know that about myself. And I know today I've identified, like, when I have said something dumb or did something dumb, like, I sense it and feel it immediately. Right. And I think there's a lot of respect that could be gained and learning at that point in time when you show your vulnerable side like that, like, yep, I just pulled my pants down and showed my butt again. Yep. But I'm sorry. Right. I'm not perfect. I'm human. And I put a lot of pressure on myself at times. And it comes out awkwardly and usually on an individual that had nothing to do with what really the issue was. And that's something tough too to identify at times, right? Knowing myself, right? Getting to know, who I am over time and who I want to be and what do I want to be when I grow up, right? Do I want to have a negative impact on people's lives? Do I want to have a positive impact on people's lives today? And ultimately at the end of the day, we have that choice. It's a decision I make every morning when I wake up. Right. And I've said this numerous times too. I know why I get up today. Chris, I know, why I get up today.
Right.
Jana and I are going to be fine. You know what I mean? But I'm concerned more, is everyone else going to be fine?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean the acronym for fine. That's I'm going to messed up, but the F word, insecure, neurotic, and emotional fine. I'm talking about, fine meaning good, and that's things change when it doesn't become about you anymore.
Right.
And I guess that's the message. If anyone doesn't, if nobody gets anything else out of this podcast, that's the message we're trying to articulate.
Yeah.
But anyhow, before I forget, again, I think I wanted everyone to hear a little bit about, like, what we heard when we were in Punta Cana a few months ago. And I actually took really good notes, and I could probably do this better than you right now. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Surprised, Ty,
I'm just totally kidding. I wish I wrote. I wish I wrote this stuff. I really do. But you were talking about maximizing what drives you. You know, drive is the key. And you talked about pain, people, and passion. Can you elaborate more and articulate to everyone what you know, in a nutshell, what we got to experience during your lecture?
Sure. Yeah, I've spent my life around a lot of very successful people like Ty, people like John Maxwell, people all over the world, not just in the United States, but around the world. I've been to Australia 11 times. I've been to South Africa 12 times. I've been to Europe, 15 times. Asia Pacific world, I've been there 7 or 8 times. South America. So I've been all over the world, all over the US, and I've met successful people in every corner of the world. And interestingly, it's success is not necessarily a talent, although some talented people get very successful if they can sing or something like that. But there's a lot of very, very talented people that don't succeed. Then there's people that maybe have someone that gets behind them financially, and yet those guys can run things into the ground and they bomb and fail. And someone that didn't have any, what I call a fat cat behind them, they still were very successful. And so, some people think it's an intelligence, or that there's a special wisdom, or there's a communication ability, or some skill set that equals success. And if you got the skill set, you're going to succeed. And in my experience is that the only distinguishing quality is drive. And drive is that desire within every single person that they want to achieve and make something bigger, better, and stronger. And they're so determined that it happened that they feel like it's a must. I must do this. And they hang on to it like grim death. And other people are like, you know what? The life I've got's good enough. They don't have the same drive. How does drive get formed in a person? What is it? What are the factors that form drive? I believe it's 3: pain, people, and passion. Pain are three things: past hurts, present needs, future longing. So there's a time frame to the pain element. It's something that happened in the past. You'll never succeed. You'll never amount to anything. You're just like your father. You have really no skill at all. There's nothing about you that tells me you're going to succeed. Some kind of BS that people have been told by some person that they ascribe too much intelligence to, who they realize that person didn't know anything about me. They don't know what they're talking about. And so a person makes a decision that I'm going to take what is painful and I'm going to turn it into pain fuel. I'm going to use the painful and make it pain fuel. I'm going to use the past hurts. Present needs is something you just need. But there's a pain to it. It's a special treatment for a sick child. It's a special thing you want to do for a parent. The lack of it hurts. It's pain oriented. And then future longing is a person that you just are sick of being what you are. You're sick of what your family is. You're sick of this lower life, and you've just got to have something different. It's a future longing. All 3 of those things hurt. Take what is painful, turn it into pain fuel. People also can give us drive. It's those I love who are counting on me and need me. It's those I admire and look up to, who I want to be proud of me. And it's those I run with and compete with that challenge me. And again, not everyone's motivated by the same things. Drive comes from different things. It's a spectrum. It's a combination. It's a matrix of things. But some people are really driven by competition. Some people are really driven by past hurt. So pain, people, and then lastly, passion. Passion is the person I want to become. I want to be the president and CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I want to get my PhD. I want to be a published author or a New York Times bestselling author. That's the person I want to become. It can also be the things I want to have. Okay. For some people, they're motivated by money. They're motivated by the second house or a house. They're motivated by, the hot car. It could be any number of things. It's the stuff I want. And then lastly, the mission I must fulfill. And this is, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, he believed God gave him a mission to fight racism. It's a mission you got to live out. John Maxwell has this mission to reach other people for God. And these things create drive. You put them all together, they're different for every person. Some people are more pain oriented, some are more people, some are more passion, some are a little bit of both, 2 of the 3, just 1 of the 3, whatever it is. When you can figure that out, then you can maximize it. Then you know what your gas pedal is, and you can floor it and go. And a lot of people, they have no idea what motivates or drives them. And they've never thought about how to turn what is painful into pain fuel, to turn what people do within us and use that into something powerful, to turn whatever it is I want or what I want to have or what I want to become or what I must do into that fire within that's almost primal, that says, I will not let anything stop me. I am going to go through whatever walls placed before me. I am not going to stop until I do it. That is drive. And trust me, that is what separates successful people from unsuccessful ones. It's really, to me, the only thing that does, because I've seen very successful idiots. I've seen very successful people that are not remotely attractive. I've seen very successful people who really don't have many skills at all. But man, the thing they do have is drive, and it will not stop. And that's why they succeed.
I love it. I love it. That's why I was looking forward to this, because I needed a little rejuve, bro. I need to call you about every quarter and give me that pep talk. Okay. And remind me where my drive comes from. But I love that. And that's the difference between those that live in those excuses. You know, if this happened to you, you would be the way that I am. And the difference between successful people is that, you know, I am this way because this happened to me. And it's funny because I had a moment this past weekend to share a little bit of my story at the fireside chat. And I kind of felt like I was all over the place, and I didn't thread it very well. I was just kind of like, I was vomiting basically on everybody there. And I didn't feel like it was very impactful. But anyhow, I got a long message from somebody today, because I talked about my mom. And of course, one of my goals is that I want to be my parents' greatest success. Right. Because I've always been a pain in her butt, but I know that she's looking down and she's very proud. And my dad, God bless him, he was actually on here earlier today.
Awesome.
And or tonight.
Hey, Dad.
Yep. He's up there with a couple of our guys.
You got a fine boy there, Dad. Fine boy.
Thank you. But whenever he's down, I want him to think of me and get happy and know that I'm in the right state of mind and body today, and that we're making an impact on people's lives. And you know, I had some guilt about my mom, and that guilt has fueled a lot of our passion, especially with our community events, because my mom didn't trade her time for dollars. My mom traded her time to other people's lives, right? Like she volunteered everything. I mean, she was involved with everything. The Exchange Club, Chamber of Commerce, Red Hat Ladies, Scarlet Ladies, Santa's Breakfast, just everything. The Summer Jubilee, she was there. She was involved organizing all this stuff. She actually had a statue after she passed away. She had a 9/11 statue. What do they do? Like put in her name in her honor at a park in our local town in Rouserville. And it's funny because I've never mentioned that before, but my mom was a stellar woman. I mean, beast. And the only thing that I can do for any of that guilt that I may have had or have is first and foremost, carry out her legacy, right? First and foremost, I must carry out her legacy. And then the other thing is that I need to fill those shoes, right? And pay my debt back to that, right? But I know that I have huge shoes to fill, and the things that we do. So just so if anybody ever wondered why I'm crazy enough to or that we're crazy enough to do what it is that we do, that's my drive, that my driving force, that fuel that you talk about, RD, and articulate so well is that's where that comes from. I don't live in that excuse of, if your mom passed away in your house and you had to take care of her, for 4 years, and that there was things there that I wished I would have done better. I wish I would have spent more time with her. And God bless Jana, because Jana is actually the one that took care of my mom full time. And it didn't put a wedge between us. And a lot of times when, a significant other's, parent moves in, a lot of times that has a negative impact on or a strain on one's relationship. Right. But that didn't happen. It actually drew those two closer, and Jana and I closer. And so we got to, I need to also remember that I had the opportunity to be able to do that. Right. And I helped out in the evenings and stuff. We had a baby monitor, and Jana could hear my mom and I talk. And I didn't even think about that in the conversations that we had, after I would pick her up off the floor, because she was dying from cancer. And at least she got to see me sober. Right. With a wonderful family that we were raising and providing for, and then the other families and stuff that we are. But anyhow, that's one of my drives, RD, is my mom, and the hell that I put her through years prior to that is that I don't live in that excuse or the environment that I grew up in, right? Like we've all had rough childhoods. I don't give a shit. Your rough might be a little different than my rough, but we all have a rough childhood of even if you had a silver spoon in your mouth, there's something that was difficult in your life. You know what I mean? And some people tend to use that as an excuse to remain mediocre. I don't want to say anything too negative, but then there's others that use those circumstances to fuel that fire that we talk about a lot. Is that fire of having an impact on people's lives, and really ultimately at the end of the day, that's where the drive continues to flow from. Once you start seeing the impact that you have on people's lives, the positive impact, mind you, the positive impact. I want to emphasize positive impact on people's lives, and then you kind of get like more fired up about it. You know what I mean? Like the impact, and it, like the things that we do downtown that we're getting ready to do here in several months, man. Like it is. We shut a whole city block down in New York City, man, and feed over 800 people. Like, I know that, but that's a pretty big deal in our local community, right?
Huge.
And what it has done for our company, we've grown because of it, because of the people that it has attracted, that wants to come work here, the talent, the like-minded people that attracts. And I just spoke to Pastor Joel on Friday, and he was asking me if you guys are we still going to do that again this year? And I was like, well, yeah,
dude, we're doing it every year.
Yeah.
And honestly, Ty, I know for a fact, I know this is a 100% fact, there are at least, well, I don't know, there's more than one person, very talented people that work here right now because of what we do for the community, the impact that we have, and they just want to be a part of it. It's very contagious, man. It's very contagious. And it might not sound like the biggest deal, 800 people. It's not a lot of people when you look at it on a city level, but it's very impactful, man. Like that's 800 some people that are never going to forget that there was people out there that dedicated their Thanksgiving to going down there and making sure that they had not only a hot meal, some of them a couple meals for the days, because we never tell people you can't have more than one, but also, there's people that are still wearing sweatshirts down there that stay warm over the wintertime because of the shirts that you gave out and the sweatshirts that you gave out and stuff. And so it's super impactful, man. And that's the generational impact. And it definitely plays a major role in our culture and what we have going on. Because you and I both know it, man. There's times that we'll gather in your office and it's like we're due for something.
And
like
now's that time.
It is.
I was talking to Pastor Joel about that.
It is.
Yeah.
We need to do something. We missed the food drive this summer, and I think that's
it's
usually
not over yet.
Right. But that's usually strategically planted at the time that we do that, and it's like it kind of carries us per quarter kind of into the next one and gets at that fuel burning and everything.
Yep,
so
for sure.
I know I'm definitely ready for it.
Me too.
Well, I want to contribute $100 to the next one you do. So maybe you can buy some Chef Boyardee in my honor to give out to some folks.
You got it.
Excellent.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, excellent.
I love that.
When we get off of this, Ty, I'll figure out how I can get that to you. Okay.
Definitely.
Perfect.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you.
So just to throw that out there, we are going to do a food drive before the 21 Turkey Salute.
Oh, nice.
He gave me a list of other things that people don't normally think about: bras, undergarments, other things like that
Mhm.
that we didn't even think about, along with diapers and stuff like that. So he's trying to figure out now. He's in the process. So we're going to try to do a smash and grab prior to the 21 Turkey. So
Perfect.
more will be revealed I would imagine by the end of the week we'll have something out there for everyone that wants to be involved with our next whatever you want to call it, food drive. I guess
Right.
it'll be probably a lot more than just food.
It'd be
a
cool for every
resource drive.
organization represented watching to decide how they can do one in their own community. And
Totally.
Absolutely.
get behind it. So I love
Yes.
that. It might get crazy around here.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what postponed, believe it or not. So this is a cool story, and not to toot our own horns here, but we normally, like Chris had mentioned, we normally do a food drive early in the year because everyone donates around the holidays.
Mhm.
Everyone forgets. So we donate to a place called The Well, and The Well runs dry, no pun intended,
Mhm.
over the summer months. So we try to hit it early in the spring, and
Sure.
that way that'll, carry them through
Yes.
the summer months. And literally the amount of food we're talking about usually helps carry them.
Right.
So this year, I'm assuming, because of what we've done years prior, it inspired somebody else to fill the shelves at the Well pantry.
It's awesome.
So it kind of like is what
That's cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's why, unfortunately, we didn't get to do it, but
Yeah.
it inspired somebody else to want to do it. So that was a win. That's a win.
Sure.
Isn't that what that was the whole point, really, right?
Absolutely.
If you want to get a little deeper on that.
Yeah, that
totally.
reminds me of something, Ty. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and you said something in this meeting that kind of sticks with me a little bit. So we have this thing called the Peak Achievement Awards through the York Builders Association that we're, I don't know what, 2 or 3 years running. We get the best volunteerism. So basically, that we get an award for being the best company in the YBA for community service. And Ty made a comment in this meeting about, he almost hopes that we don't win it this year, because what that means is that we've had enough of an impact that somebody else went out there and topped us. So that's a win.
That's
You know what I
huge.
mean? I that stuck with me, and dude, it's so true. I mean, that's the whole point that we're doing this, right? We kept saying, like, how cool will it be if 10 years from now we have so many companies that want to be a part of the 21 Turkey that we have to move it to like the York Fair, like, it's a 3 county-wide thing or something like that, because there's so many people that just like it and they want to be a part of it. So that's the whole point of this, was to have a bigger impact, and not just for the people that are receiving, but the people that are capable of giving too.
For sure.
Very
man.
cool.
It is. Yeah, it is very cool. Well,
Yep.
man, we are over our hour mark, I think, here. RD, you are an amazing human being.
Man.
Thank you for
Yeah, this was a great episode, man.
being in my life and the impact that you do and the work that you put in over there. It inspires me and inspires many, many, many others. And I look forward to our future conversations. But thank you once again. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
To this episode, this awesome, probably, I thought we had our best episode, but
We just keep topping it, man.
yes. So this is right as of now our favorite episode.
This is a good one.
Yes,
That's
for
a good one.
sure. For sure. So anything that you need from us, RD, anything that you're getting involved with that you think that we might be able to help out, reach out. Please reach out to us, because we're all about it. And keep us in mind for future events or anything that you're getting involved with. And if you haven't liked or subscribed to our Facebook page, Behind the ToolBelt,
YouTube,
TC Backer, like, share, follow, all that good stuff. Hit all those buttons that are in the corner down on the bottom there. Hit all those buttons so you get notified when we do go live. Hit the bell. If anyone has any topics or wants to come on the show because they have great topics or something that they want to discuss, by all means, reach out to us anyway. That we're on social media all over the place, so just reach out to us, and we'll do the best we can to get your opinion, your view out there to the world. And That's
Yeah.
that's it.
This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you, RD.
Thanks,
Everyone, thank you
buddy.
for tuning in religiously.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Blessings, everyone.
Yeah. Episode 193 next Wednesday, guys, 7 p.m. We will see you guys then.